and of course is also a member of the MAC. Prof, thanks for your time. I want to start off with what is appearing to be some good news around the COVID-19 infections. Over the last 2 days, they've come under the figure of 10,000. Is that a sign of improvement?
It's difficult to tell because our testing strategies are still not coherent and are still not. It's still unclear when these tests were actually collected. I think we've spoken before about how tests have to be collected and turned around very, very quickly to be clinically meaningful, as well as to understand where they come from. I think what's more useful is to look at hospitalization death rates. It's clear that the virus is taking root in Gauteng very firmly, and now it's spreading into KwaZulu-Natal. There's subtle hints that it might be plateauing in the Western Cape, but might be a little bit too early to call.
Let's then come to the matter at hand, Prof, and that is the release of the documents to the public. You're arguing, as you know, let me say some of you are arguing that this will create a better understanding. What do you make, though, of the assertion from government that the divisions and contradictions within members of the advisory committee, yourselves, the scientists, could cause public confusion, given what you are advising government?
I think the only public that's ironic, because I think the public confusion is coming from government, not from the scientists. I'm a veteran of these kind of consensus-building forums, and there's precious little contradictions and disagreements amongst the experts on the MAC that I've witnessed, certainly, and I've been, I think, in pretty much every single meeting there. So I would challenge that. I think the way we've seen the contradictions and disagreements have come from the government side, and that hasn't been explained. I really believe that, and it's not just from MAC members, it's from outside. I think a large number of the public would like to see what these deliberations are. They're surprisingly dull, and they're just a group of scientists coming up with recommendations. Government's under no onus to take it on. However, when government hides these documents, it does give the veneer of secrecy and lack of transparency, which is desperately missing from the response so far.
The argument they're putting up against the release of the documents is that it will spark widespread panic. Do you think that that argument is valid?
I think there's, I don't know, talking for me and probably for you, a government that tells you we won't give you information because it'll panic you panics me a lot more than seeing that information. There's nothing in those deliberations that I've seen that would spark panic. Possibly the thing that government was concerned about and did require some explanation to the public was the modelling exercises for the death rates and things. But no, it was scary because there was a number attached to it, but it was hardly that horrifying or panic-inducing. It would have just spurred people to action. I think what's happening at the moment is we're seeing government behaving in an irrational way, and it's breaking down the social compact. So this virus is sitting there. It's not waiting around. It hasn't got weak. We're all tired of the lockdown. We're tired of the regulations. It's just tearing its way through. This is when we need to be at our strongest. And it's very easy for us to opt out of these various social compacts, wearing masks, the physical distancing, not going and visiting your elderly parents, because we see government not maintaining its side of the bargain.
When you say government is acting irrational, I think many people are going to raise their eyebrows and say, what actually do you mean? Is this government in a panic? Are they not handling this properly, particularly as we head towards a peak?
I was listening to your interview with the restaurant owners people just earlier. So on the one hand, you have a situation where government says, you must not go and party. The president was saying in his last address, we're worried about young people going partying. But it's okay to go to church. It's okay to get into a crowded taxi. It's not okay to go and see your family for Sunday breakfast. Those kind of things don't actually make sense. And we desperately need people not to be going to their family for breakfast. We desperately need them to not be going to parties. But when you relax things for some people, not for others, you break that social compact.
Let's talk about the regulations then, Prof, the latest regulations. You've already mentioned some. Particularly the big talking point right now is the ban on alcohol sales again, the imposition of the curfew. My question to you is, did any of these regulations come from yourselves, the Ministerial Advisory Committee?
I'm bound by a confidentiality agreement where I'm not allowed to give the contents of the meetings. What I can say is that we did discuss, for instance, the alcohol ban at the previous MAC. I can't tell you what the deliberations were, but that was the first time we discussed it. The previous alcohol bans and the range of the aspects of the lockdowns, I'm not sure where those decisions came from. Government keeps saying scientists are making these decisions. That's part of our frustration, actually, within the MAC, is when government says that it would be good to know who these scientists are and what their reasoning is, so that we can interrogate it and understand what the reasoning is. The alcohol ban, you can make arguments for the alcohol ban. I think that it's a complicated thing, but it isn't, it's just a rational thing to go through, is to ask what are the rationales around it. And this whole process has been incredibly mysterious.
Final question to you, Prof. You touched earlier on what you thought could cause public panic, as, of course, our government is arguing. My question simply is, those stats that speak about the possible numbers of deaths, how alarming were they? I know you're bound by a confidentiality agreement, but surely the public has a right to know so that they take the necessary precautionary measures.
Well, it was actually released. So the public obviously wasn't panicked. Those numbers are out there in the public sector and have been updated after we asked for them to be released. So the numbers are out there. They've been extensively debated by different groups, disagreed with by different groups. Half the time, as I said, the stuff is actually quite boring. The modeling exercises, the assumptions, all of that are out there by some of our best people. So the public just need to Google them and go and find them. And as I said, it didn't seem to panic them at the time when they were released a few weeks ago.
I know that I said I was wrapping, but this discussion just gets more and more interesting. There is another element I wanted to pick your brains on, Prof, and that has to do with... it's just skipped my mind. But nonetheless, you were talking to me earlier before we came on about a big meeting that is taking place today between yourselves and the minister. What are you going to actually say to the minister? Because it does appear that your relationship with the minister as scientists is somewhat tenuous. Would you accept that term?
I mean, it's not clear that the minister will attend today's meeting. So I'd be nervous to say tenuous. I think there are individuals on the MAC who are frustrated. I think there's some who are quite happy with what's happening and are happy to keep things confidential. To give him his credit, he's always been very respectful to everybody on the MAC. He has expanded the size of the MAC significantly to include behavioral sciences, which I think everybody in the old MAC was very interested in seeing contributing more to the debate. So I think that he certainly has been respectful. I think it's unclear to us where the decisions are being made, if it's by him individually or by the Command Council or which of these mysterious scientists are. All of this is just what we would like to understand better and to just be more transparent about these processes.
Professor Francois Venter is from the University of Witwatersrand. Thank you very much for your time. Also, of course, a contributor to that Ministerial Advisory Committee. Well.